Howdy, folks. Would you also need coffee.com here? Excuse me. The air must be adjusted. There we go. I said who I was. We're here for another Wayhomer review. Here's how this works. I've just left the cinema where I've seen a film, and I'm going to tell you about it on my way home. And today's film that we're here to talk about is Atlas Shrugged, Part 1. Okay, so this is a difficult film to review for a couple of reasons. First, I must give you a context for where my review is coming from. In that, you know, Rand, and I know it's like Ayn Rand or something like that, but my brain processes A-Y-N as Anne, which I know is wrong, because you know I can't pronounce the names, so I'm just going to call her Rand, out of no disrespect, but that's a word I can pronounce. So, Rand's work, and this work in particular, polarizes a lot of people. And if you say that you know, like or appreciate Rand's work, people make a lot of assumptions about what that means as far as your character, your person, whatever. In much the same way as they do if they say you're an atheist. You know, just like, you know, you say you're an atheist and people assume that you, I don't know, eat human infants or something. You know, with Rand, if you like Rand, apparently that means that you're an utter and complete prick. But, I mean, I would assure you that there's probably some time in your life when someone has assumed something about you based on something that you've said that you are, that was probably wrong. And you went, where the hell did they get that from? So just bear that in mind when I say that, you know, being an atheist who doesn't eat human infants, and being an appreciator of a lot of what Rand had to say, I am, now there's probably other reasons that I'm a prick, but that's not one of them. So I say that to say that I appreciate the book and what it has to say, and I won't belabor the point other than to say I think the movie puts it best when the character of Dagny Taggart says, I would never force a man to do anything. So it's not, you know, the philosophy is not, as I see it, as I interpret it, I get licensed to be a total prick. It's simply, I want people to be free and to do what they want. So, that out of the way, and knowing that, you know, I'm a prick for whatever legitimate reasons you have for calling me a prick, I mean, we don't want to start a debate. I mean, the last review started a debate as to whether or not I had seen the film because of a joke about Ludacris being in it. I mean, for God's sake. So, this is very volatile territory, these Wayhomers. But the deal is this. I'm coming at this from someone who has read the book. I like the book. I appreciate the book. And I appreciate a lot of Rand's ideas. Like most people who, you know, think I don't agree with anybody 100% because that would be kind of terrifying. But anyway, so that's where I'm approaching the film from. And I'm also approaching the film from the standpoint of the fact that, you know, this is an independent film that was done kind of on the quick, kind of on the cheap. I know they wouldn't say it would cheap. Cheap makes it sound like it's like flimsy. Let's just say inexpensively, which I'm sure the people who made the film would laugh at because I'm sure it was expensive to them, but you know what I'm saying. Compared to, like, you know, the budget of Fast 5, let's say. This was probably a drop in the bucket. I don't know what the actual number was, but it was not huge. This had tried to be done, people have been trying to do this for a long, long time. They tried to do a big budget Hollywood version, and they didn't, and I'm actually kind of glad because just like we don't want anyone to screw around with an adaptation which misses the point completely, the screenwriter who was involved at the time, I think it was Randall Wallace, I don't know that he had read the book. I mean, he got it wrong. I mean, he got what happened in the book wrong. Screw all the philosophy and everything, but he got the actual activities in the book incorrectly. And I went, what the hell did you read? So I'm kind of glad that it went with a smaller production, so they were able to do more and do a better adaptation of the book. Now, that being said, there are some problems with this. Okay, plot. Jesus Christ, plot. My God, how do I do a plot for this? Okay, the plot is basically the the world is in a bad state. It's a few years from now. It's 2016 is when they've said this. And basically, through all different kind of machinations and legislation and all that other stuff, things are bad. There are certain people who are in the face of badness trying to keep, the wheels turning, so to speak. One of which is Dagny Taggart, who is basically, in essence, running a large transport company, trains, right, rail lines, and Hank Reardon, who manufactures steel. And in order to try to get to survive and try to get the country to survive, they're trying to keep the engines moving, literally, and come up with something for the engines to run on, the steel. And they're trying to do this while all these other people are trying to get in their way of being able to achieve and do things and actually, produce. That's about all the plot that you need. I mean, it's a huge book, and there's lots of stuff going on. Oh, in the midst of this, you also have some of these achieving type people are suddenly up and disappearing because they get visited by this mysterious figure, apparently. And they're just gone. And nobody knows what the hell happened to them. And that's not helping matters either. So that's the thing that you find this. Some things that are wrong, okay, or not wrong, but could have been better. Part of the problem that you have is, I always wanted to do this. I thought if you're going to do this, the best way to do it would be to use what we now could term the Game of Thrones approach, right? Take a novel, understand that you cannot possibly do that novel as a feature film, and do it as instead a series. I mean, literally a long series. And then, maybe you could get, the stuff in it. Same thing with, like, Watchmen, right? You know how Watchmen felt a little bit compressed and they left stuff out? But, in my opinion, you got the best version of Watchmen that you could get as a feature film when really it needs to be done as, like, a 10-hour series on HBO or Showtime or somewhere, in my opinion. It's the same thing here. You can feel them straining against the limitations of even more so than their budget, because they made really great use of the money that they had, right? But the compression, the time compression, and you can just feel the screenwriters just bleeding all over the place going, oh my God, we have like, I think the running time is like an hour and 45 minutes or something like that. We have to get all this stuff in. We have to explain all this stuff. We have to do all this character development as much as we possibly can in this amount of time. We can't bore people, and we can't sell. You can see the struggle happening. And I think they fought the good fight as well as they possibly could, given the limitations of a feature film. Not even the limitations of a budget, but just the limitations of a feature film. So, I mean, they are to be commended for doing it as well as they did. Same thing with, like, Watchmen. So there is that compression feel to it. The other thing is that I don't know, and I can't really speak to this, and part of the prelude that I gave for this is I wanted to set this up. I can't separate the film from the book as well as I can with other films. Like with the Harry Potter books, part of the problem that I have with the films is they've cut out so much stuff that unless you've read the book, which everyone has, unless you've read the book, I don't know that you would know what the hell is happening. Like there are certain points in Jane Eyre, which we reviewed recently, that I don't know that you would understand what was happening if you had not read the book. I mean, I was having trouble following it in places, and I read the book, but granted, that was years ago. So with this, I honestly cannot tell you if, not having read the book, if you can go see this film and get it. And by get it, I mean, you could probably follow the plot line, but I don't know that you would understand, the motivations of characters completely. I don't know that the philosophy would come through. I mean, you can see it poking its head up, again, due to the constraints, and that's all well and good, but I don't know if it gets across the point of the book. Now, we want them to be separate things, but I'm saying that as part of this review, I can't really separate them in my head properly. So I'm coming at this from the standpoint of somebody who has read the book and cannot unread the book in my head for you. So those are part of the problems. Part of what works is that, like I said, they use the budget well. I mean, you can see the shortcuts they took on the screen, but you don't care because, I mean, it's got that independent, small budget feel to it, and they did it well. The cast is really great. I mean, part of the problem is because you are losing so much in the way of explanatory prose going on around this stuff, that you have to have actors who can just understand their character, understand all that stuff, and bring it to the table, even with the bits that they can't, the table isn't big enough to bring it to. So, Dagny, Hank, Ellis Wyatt, Francisco, all the characters are actually really good. I was really happy with it. So that's all good. Like I said, this is a difficult one to review. So I think, objectively, having done as well as I possibly can with this, and trying to still keep the philosophy in with a very philosophical book, it does as good as can be expected. God, what is the point of all this? Well, the point of all this is that this is part one of what is supposed to be, I would assume, a trilogy. I've heard mentioned a trilogy. Would I want to see the second film? Yes. Do I think that people should see this film? Yes, I do. I think, and I would be fascinated to hear from someone who had not read the books before. I think if you've read the books, you'll enjoy this, and you'll probably, I would hope, see what I'm seeing in it as well. But I mean, if you don't understand what's going on, if you don't get what's being said, I don't know if this is going to convince you, and I don't know if it stands alone as a film, as a film beyond just the philosophy of it. That part I really can't speak to, and I don't want to speak to it or try to, because that would be, dishonest. And I want to be completely honest in these reviews. The other thing that occurs to me that I wanted to say they did really well was, in the version I wanted to do in my own head, I figured you just set it in some timeless no time, which would make sense. So you have trains, and you have people smoking, and you have all this stuff that was of the time that it was written, so that you can plug it in any time you want. But what they did was they actually updated it, like I said, in 2016, and they did it really smartly, so that it made sense for suddenly trains to be important. It made sense for the entire context of the book to make sense in this modern context. They just set that up on a platter so that you could go, oh, okay, I'm totally on board with this. So that they're to be commended for that too. I mean, that was like the most impressive thing that I thought they did from a screenwriting point of view, is to take this book and update it. I mean, they didn't try to do, partly probably for budget reasons, what they did with Watchmen, which was keep it in the era that it was set. They just figured out a clever way of updating it so that it would make sense for it to take place, in the near future. And there's science fiction bits to this too. I mean, it's not like Mindwalk or some film where everyone's just sitting around talking all the time. Things are actually happening. Characters are interesting. There is a plot. There is conspiracy. And like I said, there's that tinge of science fiction going on. So, I mean, don't think that you're going to go and it's going to be talking heads or something. I mean, talk lowercase t, lowercase h, David Byrne. No. So there is that to be said for it. So, I mean, should you see it? I mean, if you like independent film, you should probably support it anyway, because it is worth seeing. If you like the books, if you like the philosophy, it's definitely worth seeing. It's playing in limited release. So if you can catch it, I mean, especially at a matinee, do so. And I would love to hear your take on it. Whether you've seen the film or not, or you think, Rand people eat babies, or whatever it is you think. I would love to hear your take on it, your objective take on it as well, because it's something that I'm struggling with, because I literally walked out of the movie 5 minutes before we started shooting this. So I don't get a lot of time to process these things. Anyway, that's a lot of long, rambling stuff, but all of that to say that I think that my cup rating on this is going to be 3.5, with the caveat that I think that's accurate for people who have read the book, not even necessarily like the book, but just read the book and are familiar with it. And I just cannot see in my head as to how it would work for someone who had not read it. That's not saying it won't work. I just can't see it. So that caveat is firmly in place. Whew. Wow, I had to work for that one, Jesus. Anyway, so I think that's about all the Wayhomer I can pull out of that one. So yes, Atlas Shrugged Part 1, there you go. I hope they can make a Part 2, because I was, like I said, happy with what I saw on the screen. I still think that it could be done better justice with a full-on series, but we'll see if that happens at some point. You know they're going to remake Watchmen as a series, especially now after Game of Thrones. Anyway, so, very quickly, thank you to everybody for watching these things. I hope they do add something to your movie-going experience and inform you as to what to see, what not to see. If you like these, stumble them, Facebook them, tweet them, dig them, whatever the hell it is you do. Please do, and we thank you for it. Because I've been so long, until next time, I'll say bye. I actually could have, just done this Wayhomer as a trilogy, I guess. In part 1.